Good morning, colleagues in the media, and good morning to all South Africans. This is the statement of the cabinet meeting that took place yesterday, Wednesday, the 26th February 2025, from the Environment on International Relations, dealing with South Africa's presidency of the Group of 20, the G20. South Africa's presidency of the G20 under the theme Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability has commenced in earnest with the successful conclusion of the first G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg from the 20th until the 21st of February 2025, and the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Banks Governors meeting currently underway in Cape Town, which commenced yesterday on the 26th, which will complete today on the 27th of February. The first G20 Foreign Ministers meeting was an opportunity for the G20 Foreign Ministers to reflect on the global geopolitical challenges and discuss ways in which the G20 could contribute to finding solutions to these challenges. The meeting supported South Africa's approach of managing geopolitical issues, its G20 presidency priorities and high-level deliverables, and reaffirmed the role of the G20 as the premium forum for international economic cooperation. In addition, South Africa successfully hosted the following working group meetings. The first Education Working Group meeting, which took place on the 12th to the 13th of February, it took place virtually. The purpose of the meeting was to share and seek consensus in the three priorities of this working group, namely, Priority 1, quality foundational learning, the role of early childhood care and education to improve the quality of foundational learning. Priority 2, mutual recognition of qualifications in a global context. And Priority 3, education, professional development for a changing world. We also hosted the first Women Empowerment Working Group from the 17th to the 18th of February 2025. It also took place virtually. The working group participants supported South Africa's priorities, which are also aligned to their national priorities on the rights of women and builds upon Brazil's presidency initiatives and priorities. We also hosted the first Digital Economy Working Group from the 17th to the 19th of February virtually. The meeting was also a platform for South Africa to share and seek consensus on the priorities of the working group. The four priorities are A, connectivity for inclusive digital development; B, digital public infrastructure and transformation; C, digital innovation systems, unleashing the potential of micro, small, and medium enterprises; and D, equitable, inclusive, and just artificial intelligence. We also hosted the first G20 Employment Working Group meeting from the 18th to the 21st of February 2025 in Gqeberha. The working group meeting discussed inclusive growth, youth employment, gender equality, income inequality, and the impact of digitalization on the future of work. We also hosted the first Culture Working Group from the 20th to the 21st of February 2025. It also took place virtually. The priorities of the working group that were supported by all participants are four. The first priority, safeguarding and restitution of cultural heritage to protect human rights. B, integrating cultural policies in socio-economic strategies to ensure an inclusive rights-based development. Priority 3, harnessing digital technologies for the protection and promotion of culture and sustainable economies. And Priority 4, the intersection of culture and climate change, shaping global response. The following G20 working groups and task forces meetings are to be held from today until the end of March 2025. The first Energy Transitions Working Group meeting, which will take place from the 27th, which is today, to the 28th of February virtually. The first Agriculture Working Group meeting, which will take place from the 3rd to the 4th of March 2025 virtually. The first Anti-Corruption Working Group meeting, which will take place from the 3rd to the 5th of March 2025 here in Cape Town. The first Tourism Working Group meeting, which will take place on the 5th of March 2025 virtually. The first Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group meeting, which will take place on the 5th of March 2025 virtually. And the first Task Force meeting on food security, which will take place on the 5th of March 2025 virtually. We'll also host the first Trade and Investment Working Group meeting, from the 18th to the 20th of March virtually. The first task force meeting on inclusive economic growth, industrialization, employment, and reducing inequality, which will take place on the 17th of March 2025 virtually. And the second health working group meeting, which will take place from the 26th to the 28th of March 2025 in Durban. And the first climate and environment sustainability working group meeting, which will take place on the 25th to the 28th of March 2025 virtually. Information on South Africa's hosting of various G20 meetings and their outcomes can be accessed on www.g20.org or www.g20.org.za. South Africa, EU or European Union political dialogue. Cabinet welcomed the support of the European Union for South Africa's positions in the global geopolitics and our G20 presidency priorities following the successful 16th Ministerial Political Dialogue meeting between South Africa and the EU, which was held on the 19th of February 2025 in Cape Town. The dialogue presented an opportunity for the EU and South Africa to reiterate their common commitment to multilateralism, rules-based international order, and the centrality of the UN Charter. The parties further agreed on the need to reform the UN Security Council, recognizing the urgent need to make it more representative, inclusive, transparent, efficient, democratic, and accountable. The EU and South Africa also discussed their cooperation in multilateral and regional fora, focusing in particular on their joint efforts to promote human rights and sustainable development and to address climate change. They also reviewed opportunities to step up cooperation in sustainable value chains, including critical raw materials, with a view to further their respective competitiveness, economic security, and decarbonization efforts. The meeting also served as a preparatory platform for the upcoming EU-South Africa summit to be held on the 13th of March 2025 in South Africa. The summit will discuss improving economic relations, just energy transition, security and defense, sustainable value chains, and the multilateral cooperation. The EU is South Africa's top source of foreign direct investment, and South Africa is the EU's largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa. The meeting also underscored the importance of holding the EU-African Union Ministerial Meeting and Summit in 2025. On the African Union Peace and Security Council and the United Nations Security Council resolutions on the situation in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, Cabinet welcomed and supports both the African Union Peace and Security Council and the United Nations Security Council resolutions on the situation in the Eastern DRC. The AU Peace and Security Council endorsed the decisions of the Joint East Africa Community or EAC and SADC meeting that demanded an immediate ceasefire, the facilitation of safe and unhindered humanitarian routes, the withdrawal of all uninvited forces from the Eastern DRC, the respect of the DRC's territorial integrity, and the participation of all state and non-state actors in the political dialogue under the joint Luanda-Nairobi process. The UN Security Council resolution urged all parties, state and non-state actors in the Eastern DRC to conclude an immediate and unconditional ceasefire as called for by the leaders of the EAC and SADC. The resolution further demands that M23 rebel groups withdraw from the territories they've seized in the Eastern DRC and called on the Rwandan Defense Forces to stop supporting the armed groups and immediately withdraw from Congolese territory without preconditions. Cabinet expressed its well wishes for a speedy recovery for all 10 returned injured soldiers who are now receiving medical treatment in South Africa, their home soil. AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. Cabinet welcomed the AU adoption of the Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, which is a legal instrument to prevent and eliminate violence against women and girls in Africa. The development of the AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls is informed by the historic decision by the AU heads of state in February 2023 during the AU summit. The convention aims to provide a comprehensive and legally binding framework for the prevention and elimination of all types of violence against women and girls throughout Africa. This will be accomplished by addressing the root causes and drivers of such violence, strengthening legal and institutional mechanisms, and promoting a culture of respect for human rights, gender equality, and the dignity of women and girls. It will also ensure that state parties reinforce a common approach to eliminating violence against women and girls. On the economy, the postponement of the tabling of the national budget. Cabinet wishes to reiterate that the postponement of the tabling of the national budget from the 19th of February 2025 to the 12th of March 2025 is a result of efforts by Cabinet to collectively address our nation's funding challenges within a constrained fiscal environment. Cabinet assures South Africans that deliberations within Cabinet on the 2025 national budget are continuing to determine the best ways to fund our national priorities and ensure the budget reflects the aspirations of all South Africans. The postponement, while it is the first in the history of South Africa, but not out of the norm in other jurisdictions, it is still within the provisions of the Public Financial Management Act, commonly known as the PFMA. The quarterly labor force survey. Cabinet welcomed the upward trajectory in employment creation following the second consecutive drop in the unemployment rate, which marks the lowest rate since the third quarter of 2023. The country's unemployment rate decreased to 31.9% in the fourth quarter of 2024 from 32.1% in the previous quarter. The number of employed people increased by 132,000 to 17.1 million, while the number of unemployed persons decreased by 20,000 to 8 million during the same quarter. Employment over the quarter increased in 4 of the 10 industries surveyed by Statistics South Africa, including finance, 232,000, followed by manufacturing, 41,000, private households, 18,000, and transport, 17,000. Cabinet affirmed government's commitment to create jobs with a special focus on youth employment programs. Through the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, almost 2.2 million work opportunities have been created for young people. South Africa-China trade investment. Cabinet welcomes the successful engagement between the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, Chairman Mr. Ren Hogbin, and Deputy President Paul Mashatile on fostering better trade and investment cooperation between South Africa and China. The visit follows the successful second state visit to China by President Cyril Ramaphosa in September 2024. In particular, it builds on the outcomes of the President's business engagements, including the seminal South Africa-China Presidential Business Forum. The close roundtable discussion between the President and the leadership of 20 high-level Chinese investors and the Presidential Business Program in Shenzhen that focused on key investors in China's leading technology and innovation hub. South Africa mobilized China's businesses to attend the various business meetings of the G20 in the country this year, while the CCPIT invited South Africa to attend the third China International Supply Chain Expo in Beijing in July 2025. Relations between South Africa and China were further enhanced with the arrival of the first group of tourists from China through the country's new Trusted Tour Operator Scheme. The TTOS allows vetted tour operators to submit group applications for tour groups from China and India through a secure digital platform and receive their outcomes digitally within a matter of hours. On health, hand, foot, and mouth disease, HFMD, Cabinet welcomed the quick intervention by authorities following the recent outbreak of hand, foot, and mouth disease in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, which causes flu-like symptoms such as painful blisters and swollen hands. This is not the same as the animal-based foot and mouth disease, and it is not fatal. A number of cases of the extremely contagious viral infection were detected in several primary schools and daycare centers in the 2 provinces. School principals are urged to conduct daily assessment in their schools to detect and report HFMD cases as guided by the Department of Health. Foodborne illnesses. The registration deadline for all spaza shops and other food handling outlets with their local municipality is Friday, 20 February 2025. Spaza shops that are not registered and do not meet all health standards and requirements will be closed. Government introduced these measures in November 2024 as part of efforts to regulate spaza shops and prevent unnecessary deaths of children as a result of foodborne illnesses caused by contaminated food purchased from such shops. Integrated multidisciplinary inspection teams continue to conduct compliance inspections across the country to ensure that all food retailers operate legally and comply within the food and health and safety standards. Cabinet calls on all consumers, parents and caregivers to only buy food from places that are licensed to sell food products and observe food safety regulations. Members of the public are also encouraged to practice basic food safety measures, such as washing their hands thoroughly with soap and water before handling or consuming food. On social welfare, the deadline for the South African Social Security Agency beneficiaries to swap their SASSA Gold Card for the Postbank Black Card has been extended to 20th March 2025. More than 716,900 beneficiaries have transitioned to the Postbank Black Cards, and card distribution sites have been increased around the country to mitigate the queues so that every beneficiary receives the new card near where they live. Postbank has also increased the number of tellers in their card replacement sites from 2 tellers up to 5 tellers, depending on the business of the site. Beneficiaries are encouraged to visit their nearest Checkers, Shoprite, Pick n Pay, USafe, or Boxer store to collect their new Postbank card. A valid South African identity document or temporary ID is required. Mobile offices will also be available in rural areas to assist beneficiaries. Additionally, Postbank has partnered with the SPAR Group, which will designate 200 of its stores as service sites across the country. Cabinet reminds beneficiaries that the old SASSA Gold Card will stop working on the 20th of March 2025, and beneficiaries who have not exchanged their cards by then will need to visit their nearest post office branch to access their funds. Fight against crime. Cabinet welcomed the crime stats report, which showed a decline across multiple crime categories in the country's latest crime statistics. The third quarter of the 2024-25 financial year showed a 9.8% decrease in murder and a 3.3% reduction in rape and a 3.2% drop in attempted sexual offenses. There was also a notable decline in carjackings and robberies. While overall levels of crime continue to remain unacceptably high, the decline shows that the interventions by the South African Police Service to make South Africa safer are making a difference. Fighting crime is a shared responsibility between the police, the community, and the business sector. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to play their part in the fight against crime by reporting any criminal activity to their nearest police station or calling the Crime Stop number 08600 10111. The Southern African Development Community SADC Media Awards. Cabinet calls on all South African journalists to submit their entries for the 2025 SADC Media Awards. Entries for the competition will close on Friday, the 28th February 2025. Journalists who wish to enter can access more information about the competition from the gcis.gov.za. The first prize winner in each category receives $2,500 and the runner-ups receive $1,000. Updates to Cabinet. The electricity load shedding recovery measures. Cabinet received and welcomed an update on the recovery efforts by Eskom to stabilize the nation's power supply following a series of unforeseen incidents at multiple power stations that led to the implementation of load shedding to protect the national grid. These highly unusual and unrelated incidents that took place on the 22nd of February 2025 resulted in a rapid depletion of reserve margins. They included an electrical fault at Majuba Power Station, the loss of cooling water pumps at Camden Power Station, and a unit loss at Medupi Power Station. Cabinet acknowledged the swift response by Eskom's technical team to recover the 4,800 megawatts, with 4 of the 5 trip units at Majuba returned and 2 of 4 trip units returned at Camden by 8 p.m. on the 23rd of February 2025. In implementing its recovery plan, Eskom anticipates a step down in the stages of load shedding. Efforts are focused on replenishing emergency reserves, particularly diesel stocks, to stabilize operations for the coming days. Despite the current setback, steady progress has been made in improving generation capacity and maintaining a reliable electricity supply. From the 1st of April 2024 to the 20th of February 2025, load shedding was suspended for 323 days compared to 32 days in the same period last year. Electricity supply was available 99% of the time compared to just 9.8% last year. Cabinet noted that the upcoming addition of 1,600 megawatts with the synchronization of Kusile Unit 6 scheduled for the 9th of March 2025 and Medupi Unit 4 at the end of March 2025 will further bolster our nation's energy supply. On Cabinet decisions, the Medium-Term Development Plan 2024-2029, Cabinet approved the MTDP for the period 2024-2029, which outlines key priorities of the 7th administration. The MTDP builds on the National Development Plan, the Statement of Intent of the Government of National Unity, and the consensus reached during the Cabinet Lekgotla held on the 29th to the 30th of January 2025. Additionally, the MTDP incorporates the 3 strategic priorities outlined by President Ramaphosa in his opening of Parliament address or State of the Nation address on the 18th of July 2024. The plan guides government's initiatives to create a more inclusive country that lives up to the commitments of the Government of National Unity in achieving the targets of the National Development Plan. It aims, among others, to ensure inclusive economic growth, reduce unemployment, poverty, and the rising cost of living, as well as to ensure a capable developmental and ethical state. The National Communication Strategy Framework 2024-2029, Cabinet approved the National Communication Strategy Framework for implementation across all spheres of government. The NCSF forms part of the ongoing work to consolidate and enhance government-wide communication system in support of the implementation of the Medium-Term Development Plan 2024-2029, as envisaged in the Government Communication Policy approved by Cabinet in 2018, which is currently under review. The NCSF responds to the expectation that government communication must be coherent, improves public trust and investor confidence, foster unity and social cohesion, and mobilize citizens' participation as ongoing efforts to encourage South Africans to use information to improve their lives and take advantage of socio-economic opportunities to contribute to the development of our country. The ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Area Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade, Cabinet approved the submission of the AFCFTA Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade to Parliament for ratification. The protocol aims to enhance the participation of women and youth in trade under the AFCFTA, and it outlines specific objectives such as helping women and youth traders to effectively participate in the market. It also strives to foster value addition and innovation for increased imports and exports by women and youth, as well as their inclusion in regional and continental value chains. The protocol also advocates for measures to eliminate discrimination, promote equality and inclusivity, to ensure that women and youth benefit from trade opportunities. Other significant provisions of the protocol include eliminating non-tariff barriers affecting women and youth in trade, promoting their participation in policy formulation, and improving their access to finance. The protocol is expected to support women and youth to trade and take advantage of the opportunities presented by the AFCFTA and enhance their inclusive participation in intra-African trade. Ratification of the protocol on competition policy under the AFCFTA. Cabinet approved the submission of the protocol on competition policy under the AFCFTA to Parliament for ratification. The protocol is an agreement by AU member states to ensure that competition on the continent contributes to trade, inclusive growth, industrialization, and sustainable economic development. The protocol focuses on preventing anti-competitive practices by providing a framework for addressing market concentration, abuse of power, and other competition-related issues. The AU acknowledges that the absence of continental competition policies results in anti-competitive practices such as cartels and monopolies that abuse their market position. The protocol will apply to all economic activity within the FCFTA market and will target anti-competitive practices, including international and cross-border cartels that are not effectively regulated, as well as competitive practices initiated by larger enterprises operating outside the continent. Outcomes from South Africa's participation at the general debate of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA 79, Cabinet considered and approved the report on the outcomes of the 79th session of the UN General Assembly under the theme, Leaving No One Behind, Acting Together for the Advancement of Peace, Sustainable Development and Human Dignity for Present and Future Generations. South Africa's participation at the UN Summit of the Future also focused on the opportunity to forge global consensus and make progress on priorities such as sustainable development goals, and for African countries that the summit must focus on global action in support of the continent's developmental agenda, Agenda 2063. Appointments. All appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. Cabinet has concurred to the appointment of Professor John Lamula, who has been appointed as the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Airways for a period of 2 years. Professor Busani Ntshavheni as the Director General of the Department, National School of Government. This is an extension of employment contract for another period of 5 years. Mr. Lindelwa Simpiwe Hamilton as the Director General at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Mr. Tebogo Seokolo, it's Ambassador Tebogo Seokolo, as the Deputy Director General, Africa, at the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. Ms. Angela Sizakele Mahangwe, as the Deputy Director General, Welfare Services in the Department of Social Development, and Ms. Tandeka Gloria Ngobo, as the Chief Financial Officer at the Department of Social Development. Cabinet also concurred to the Cabinet also approved the appointment of the non-executive directors to the Interim Board of State Information Technology Agency, SITA, Ms. Zani Mudau, who's going to be the chairperson, Mr. Willie Vukela, who's the DPSA representative, Mr. Willie Matebula, the National Treasury representative, Advocate Johannes Colin Weapon, and Mr. Omega Shilembe, who's the representative of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. Upcoming events: Human Rights Month. South Africa will in March commemorate Human Rights Month under the theme Accelerating Efforts Towards Social Justice Anchored on Human Rights. The history of Human Rights Month is grounded in the Sharpeville massacre and other massacres that followed thereafter on March 21, 1960, where the apartheid police shot and killed 69 people during a peaceful protest. The painful legacy from apartheid skewed policies continue to shape our present reality and has led to many people being trapped in a cycle of poverty and unemployment. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996, which lays the foundation for a free and democratic society, supports efforts to advance social justice through the redress of past injustices. The recently assented Appropriation Act 2024, Act number 13, sets forth a constitutionally mandated legal process that allows government to ratify the bitter legacy of land dispossession and poverty by helping level the playing field so that more citizens can have access to economic opportunity, basic services, and land. Our National Human Rights Day celebration will take place on the 21st of March 2021 at the Constitutional Hill in Johannesburg, this precinct which is the seat of the Constitutional Court of South Africa. Africa Energy Indaba 2025. South Africa will host Africa Energy Indaba 2025 from the 4th to the 6th of March 2025 at the Cape Town International Convention Center. The Indaba is a flagship event on the continent as it connects industry leaders and showcases new cutting-edge solutions for the sector. The conference comes at a time when South Africa's energy sector is growing in leaps and bounds as the country works to secure its future energy supply. Last year, government promulgated the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act of 2024, Act number 38, towards creating a competitive and sustainable energy sector that can meet our nation's growing energy demands. In securing our future energy supply, 11 gigawatts of energy projects are scheduled for construction over the next 3 years. In December 2024, eight preferred bidders for bid window 7 of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program with a combined contracted capacity of 1,760 megawatts were announced. On messages, we'll start with congratulations. Cabinet extended its congratulations and well wishes to Minister Nomakosazana Meth on her election as the chairperson of the African Regional Labour Administration Center, Ms. Lerato Matabuche on a historic election to the position of Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the African Union, Ms. Tyler Laura Seithal, popularly known as Tyler, the South African singer who is the first African solo artist whose single Water has surpassed 1 billion streams on Spotify. Mr. Voter Keleman, South Africa's flautist, along with Ms. Eru Matsumoto and Ms. Chandrika Tandon, the Grammy Award winners for their album Triveni. On condolences, Cabinet expressed its condolences to the friends and family of Sutukazi Arosi, 64, the award-winning singer, composer, and actress. She was well known for being one of Africa's leading voices and an accomplished actress, having performed in numerous South African productions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister in the Presidency, for the comprehensive statement. We will start to engage with questions in the Imbizo Center, and thereafter we will then consider the questions that we have received online. Maybe let me start in the Imbizo Center. If there are any questions? The drill is the same. Your name, your media institution, and the question. Thank you.
My name is Aisha Ismail and I represent ENCA. I have two questions. The one is with regards to the postponement of the budget announcement. Is the 12th of March cast in stone? And also, secondly, with regards to the visit by AfriForum as well as another organization, whether going to the United States of America, has Cabinet discussed this, and does Cabinet also view this as perhaps being not loyal to South Africa, and whether any, whether any steps will be taken against people going to the United States of America and meeting with the United States government to basically go and complain to them about not being treated well in South Africa, and to be bluntly, to peddle lies about the government of national unity.
Thank you very much, Aisha. Let me note and recognize you, and then I'll come to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Olga Kokan from the SABC News. My question is just a bit of a follow-up to my colleague, that on the issue of the delivery of the budget. There are also other rumors that there are still contestation in terms of what should be included in the budget and what should not be within the political parties under the GMU. Are you able, Minister, to confirm that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Timmy Letseda with Bloomberg News. On the budget issue, I just wonder if the approach has changed from National Treasury in terms of engaging Cabinet. Initially, the Minister had said that there are issues that are market sensitive, so they cannot be disclosed fully. Has that approach changed? Is Cabinet now working with all of the information at hand in reaching consensus on the new dates? And then secondly, the President mentioned this earlier this morning, that there was a meaningful deal that was in the works with regards to relations with the US. Can you just elaborate a little bit more? Is South Africa looking to make some of the concessions that we've seen other heads of state in the world make? What exactly does he mean by a meaningful deal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, I'm not sure if we should start with this or we should take also the online ones. I see there are still typing most of them quite active. Okay, thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you for the questions. So I'll deal with the question from the SABC and ENCA on the budget as one, and also the Bloomberg question on the approach. So the 12th of March is cast in stone. That's what the Speaker has announced, and she has announced that with the confirmation of Cabinet, and market-sensitive information will remain market-sensitive information. Yes, the budget is the budget of Cabinet, but the responsibility to table that budget is that of the Minister of Finance as assigned by the PFMA. As we have indicated, as Cabinet we're engaging, and there's a timeline that we need to comply with, and we are going to comply with to conclude the budget process within the mandate of Cabinet and allow the Minister of Finance to be responsible for the matters that relate to his responsibility as Minister of Finance. And rumors of contestation, they are just that, rumors, because in Cabinet we don't have political parties, and we don't have people representing their political parties. We've got members of Cabinet appointed by the President of the Republic who serve at the pleasure of the President of the Republic as prescribed by the President's Act that allows him to appoint members of the Cabinet to act collectively within Cabinet, and that has been made clear to say nobody is bringing a party jacket. We are there to represent the interests of all South Africans. There's a mechanism that has been put in place that we are going, so that you don't have rumors. We are meeting again on there's a special Cabinet on next week Monday, because you like to peddle and create as if it's part of that process to finalize our part as Cabinet and our input as Cabinet to then allow the Minister of Finance to do his part. So there are no rumors that you peddle, hey, it means there's no agreement, whatever. No, it's part of the process to say, because even when we've discussed, somebody has to go crunch the numbers and come back and say, what does this look like, what does it mean? So don't do peddle rumors. We're going to meet next week, Monday, to finalize our inputs to the Treasury, so that we allow the Minister of Finance and the Treasury team space to do what they're required to do as provided for in the law. And in terms of, is it AfriForum in Solidarity?
AfriForum in Solidarity, yes.
In Solidarity. I don't know why they continue to go and peddle lies, but we're not going to make some people peacetime heroes. If they don't like South Africa so much, if they don't like what the efforts of government to redress the iniquities of the past, why don't they take up President Trump on his offer to resettle in the United States? I think we need to leave it there. So those who don't like what's happening in South Africa, there's an offer, and we must emphasize it's not all Afrikaners, it's not all white people, it's those selectively and enough. So there's an offer, they must take that offer instead of peddling lies. But we appreciate the support from our media for coming out to clarify that what is being said is lies. It's not in line with the South African Constitution, and the government is at all material times, from the first administration to the seventh administration, acted within the provisions of our Constitution, which is globally is rated as one of the best constitution globally. And we also appreciate the support that has come through from different sectors, the AU, the European Union, to indicate that the lies that are being peddled about South Africa are not true. And South Africa has a responsibility to correct the injustices of the past so that we can build a united, prosperous, and equal South Africa, that all of us, we can call it a home at an equal footing, that my children and my grandchildren can participate equally in the opportunities that your children and grandchildren, Aisha, participates with, and Kali Krill's children and grandchildren participates equally, because of what we mean by redressing that. So meaningful deal with the US. As the President has indicated, we continue to engage with the various processes. South Africa is an important global player, And as he has outlined, there will be envoys that will be sent into the US. But from where we sit, we both have mutual interest in the development and growth of our own countries and our own economies. So it's beneficial for the US to have good relations with South Africa, and it's also beneficial for South Africa to have good relations with the US. We cannot avoid each other. So there will be a meaningful deal that is found. When such deal has been agreed to, we will announce that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we have close to 6 online questions, or 5. Let me request Nandi to take us through.
Good morning, Minister, the ADG, Mr. Baroi, and the members of the media that are here this morning. We have 5 questions, Mr. Baroi. The first question comes from Dennis Delport from Net24. Minister, is the President still planning to send a delegation to the US to address the diplomatic crisis? If so, when will they go to the US and who will form part of the delegation? Second question is from Kaya Koko from News24. The question is, has the Minister been in contact with either the Hawks or NPA regarding the confirmed fraud and corruption investigation into the tenor at the Palabora local municipality? Third question is from Jan Gerber, News24. Is there an update on the delegations to capitals that the President announced in Sona, especially to Washington, as AfriForum / Solidarity has a head start and has been spreading right-wing disinformation in the U.S. Capitol this past week? Fourth question is from Maibongwe Makrina at Independent Media. What is the latest on the delegation President Ramaphosa was going to send to the U.S. to meet with the Trump administration, particularly in light of AfriForum already having met with the Trump administration? And lastly, the question is from Kylie Cohen from News24, and he asked, can the Minister expand on discussions around the approval of the South African Airways CEO candidate, Mr. John Lamola? What were the nature of the discussions? Did any parties or individuals oppose the appointment? That's the last question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nandipa. Minister, those were the last set of questions we had. Maybe you might also at the end close the session.
Thank you. Maybe let's start with the Bapalaburwa, Hawks, and NPA. I think that question must be directed to them. I'm not the one I don't have a response. So please direct the question to themselves. In terms of the delegation, we have clarified that we're interacting, and also to the other capitals. For instance, we've been meeting with the EU, and the Minister Lamula has been doing great work in meeting with the EU and other capitals and engaging with them. We will announce when the envoys are sent. And we are glad that you continue, not only the media, but South African, call out the misinformation, as I've indicated, that are being said. And I don't know why we want to expropriate the president's power. There's only one person who's called the president who takes the oath of office to be president. And he's the one who's going to appoint the envoys. And when that appointment is done, we will then announce the appointment as government of the envoys and where they are going to do. We already know what they are. I don't know whether you want to call people who are peddling lies having a head start. In my language, which is Chivenda or Ruvenda, for those who are grade A speakers of the language, they say Tabanyedza ilambuzi tsarela ya la column, that if you rush, it's not like in English where they say an early bird catches a worm. In my language, which is African, and I think it's common across the African culture, if you rush through, you miss a lot of opportunities, you miss a lot of things. But when you take your time and measure, so we don't believe there's a need to rush. There are processes underway. The fact that there are no delegations called that have been announced to say these ones are going wherever, it doesn't mean there's no work that is being done at the background remember, we've got representation through our embassies and other channels that we engage with various capitals and so forth. So that work continues to be done. So for us, there's no crisis. Then the other questions were relating to the same issue. And then the question of the appointment of the CEO of SAA, the Minister of Transport, Minister Barbara Creasy, issued a statement earlier this morning to clarify the whole process. But in terms of cabinet, we approve an appointment or disapprove an appointment. And imagine if I came here and give you a blow-by-blow account of how the discussions took place at cabinet, who said what, whatever, we will not have government. So cabinet has approved the appointment of Professor Lamula as the CEO of SAA. Any other detail, refer to the statement issued by Minister Barbara Creasy earlier this morning. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your coming through and your support in communicating the message of government out there. Thank you very much.
From my side, thank you very much.
We're doing a live. Swimming. Oh, this one well. I think you can teach them. Even is a very, very, very good swimmer.